All right, so I recently picked up a new dress watch. I got an Orient Bambino after a lot of research, and I really had a hard time deciding between the many different Orient Bambinos, and then also there are two other lines that Orient offered: the Symphony and the Esteem, and all of those had different things that appealed to me. And I went through doing a lot of research trying to decide which one I wanted. I wound up going with the Orient Bambino Generation 2 version 3 blue dial. So I have to get really specific with these. But I thought it'd be good to do a video to kind of run down the differences between these three main lines and just do sort of an overview in case anybody else is in the same position I was, where you're trying to decide between which Orient dress watch you want to get that's in this kind of $100 to $200 price range. So yeah, let's take a look at the one I got real quick, and then yeah, we'll jump into the rundown. Okay, so recently I was in the market for a new dress watch, and I went ahead and sold my MVMT or Movement quartz dress watch that I had for a long time, and was, got a lot of great wear out of it. But I was looking for kind of an upgrade to that, and I came across Orient's line of dress watches. Specifically, there were three lines that they had that were kind of in my price range, or in the $100 to $200 price range, and that was the Esteem, the Symphony, and the Bambino. And as I was looking through those ones, I got a little bit confusing as to the differences between them and the similarities, and trying to decide exactly which one. And so I decided I'd go ahead and do this video with just kind of what I discovered through the research and what appealed to me from each line, and how I wound up eventually settling on this one. This is the one that I got. So this is the Orient Bambino. This is Generation 2, version 3, blue dial. So that's the one that I wound up landing on. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about those three main lines, because all of them, they're kind of similar price range. They have some different stylings and different features, particularly the Symphony and the Bambino. It was really difficult to try and figure out the main drawbacks and advantages to those. But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about it. But we're going to start with the Orient Esteem. So the Orient Esteem is kind of their low budget open heart option. So they have, I was really thinking if I wanted to get an open heart watch. I was really looking at the Orient Esteem line. They have two main types. They have one with Arabic numerals, and then one with the kind of the sort of more traditional dress watch, kind of baton style indices, not batons, but little triangles. I don't know what the technical term for them is, but it looks very classy, very stylish, and you can see into, so the open heart means that you can see into the internal movements, usually the balance wheel, so you can see it spinning around, and you can see that there's something going on in there. The Esteem does not have hacking or hand winding. Hacking meaning that the second hand will stop when you pull the crown out, so that you can synchronize it, which to me, I don't really care about that. I rarely set a watch to that level of accuracy. But the hand winding is very important to me on a dress watch in particular, because I normally wear dress watches on the weekends and not so much during the week. So I want a watch that I can quickly pick up and wind without having to do kind of the whole little shuffle thing and shake it up, like with a lot of the Seiko 5s, that was the main reason I gravitated away from some of those Seiko 5s and towards the Orient line, because I was looking for something that had hand winding, which, as you'll see when we go through this, that's really going to land you on the Bambino line, is the one that currently has that hand winding feature. The other two do not. So yeah, so the Esteem, you get the open heart where you can see into the movement, and the price range for that is around $100, so between $100 and $120 you see them on Amazon going for, and so they're a really good option there. But I wound up finding another open heart watch that I had on my wish list on Amazon for a while, that dropped way down in price. It was a watch from Momentum, so kind of way out there, but it's this one that I've got on here, and we'll get a little close up of it too. But this one, it's kind of a bigger watch, so it's not like a traditional dress watch. It's kind of in between a dress watch and a casual watch and a field watch. But I'm going to do a full review on that one later on. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next one, the line we'll look at, is the Symphony. Now the Symphony looks very similar to some of the Bambinos, particularly the version 1 Bambinos. And maybe actually some of the, I think there's some Symphonies that look a lot like the Esteem, same kind of dial face with the Arabic numerals. The primary difference between the Symphony and the Bambino that I discovered was that the Symphony has a flat crystal, whereas the Bambino has a domed crystal. It's one of the distinguishing features of the whole Bambino line is that they all have this kind of high domed crystal on it, so it kind of gives you this more vintage look, whereas the Symphony does not have that. That can be a benefit because I think that one of the downsides to having that domed crystal is that it'll pick up scratches a lot easier. There's less protecting it. It kind of sticks out more. Whereas a flat crystal on the Symphony, you get very clean look and maybe a little bit more protection from getting scratches and things than you would with the Bambino. But the Symphony does not have hacking or hand winding. It is a little bit cheaper. Normally you can pick those up for right around $100 on Amazon or at other places. So if you're looking for kind of your really budget entry and you don't really care about the hand winding like I did, or the domed crystal, Symphony might be a good way to go. The last line is kind of the most complicated, and this is the most popular of Orient's dress watches, I believe, as far as I know, and that's the Bambino. Everybody raves about this watch, and there's so many different ones to choose from. So I want to kind of quickly run down, because that for me was really complicated. I'll quickly kind of run down some of the differences and the variations. So right now, there's kind of two main Bambinos that are for sale right now, the current ones. So you have the Generation 2 Bambinos, and then just recently they also introduced an open heart Bambino and a small seconds, which you could kind of consider those a third generation. I believe they have different movements, and that's usually, so when you talk about the generations of the Bambino line, the generation is normally referring to the movement that's inside of it. So if you're looking at older watches and you look on eBay and things, and you might run across some Generation 1 Bambinos, they're going to look almost exactly the same as the Generation 2. However, they're not going to have the same movement inside, and particularly the difference is that the Generation 2 and the new small seconds and open heart, so those all have hacking and hand winding associated with those movements. If you go all the way back to the Generation 1, it's the exact same movement that's in the Symphony, and it's just a movement that you have to kind of shake it to get it started and just wear it. You can't do the hand winding on it. So if you're looking at the older ones, kind of be aware of that, especially if you're looking on eBay. I ran across a couple that I thought was a Generation 2, but really it was an older Generation 1, and that kind of was why they were looking a little bit cheaper. And so I almost mistakenly bought a couple of those thinking that they were the Gen 2, because I really wanted, again, that hacking hand winding. When you talk about the versions, that's talking about the styling of the watches. So there's 4 versions in the Generation 2. The first version is kind of your ultra classic dress watch look. Again, very simple design, but maybe a little bit more kind of fancy looking with the more triangular indices. And more traditional colors and straps and things like that. So the version 2, that has the Roman numerals around it. It's a little bit busier dial. I really like the look of it. They're all applied indices but all in Roman numerals. Has a little second track going around the outside of that. So different look. Initially, that was the one that I was most interested in and was kind of gravitating towards that. But it's a little bit kind of more on the dial, a little bit busier. Maybe a little bit more difficult to match with what you're wearing, and not quite as versatile as some of the more simpler ones. The version 3 is kind of your most minimalist look. It's kind of like I guess they call it a Bauhaus style, where you have really these baton indices that are just kind of really straight lines. The hour and minute hands are just sticks, so there's no decoration on them. There's no interesting shape. So it's a very minimalist look, and particularly though on the blue dial one, which is the one that I got, I really liked that combination of you have kind of a very interesting dial color that really pops, and then with this really simple design. I think with like maybe the silver one or the gold one is kind of a little too minimal for me, but kind of that combination of having this sort of deep blue dial and then with that minimal look to it, I really like that. And then the version 4 is kind of a combination, I would say, of maybe you're getting a little bit of the version 1 where you have the more traditional, old style, kind of very dressy look. But then the dial faces on those are, you have some more starburst patterns or some sunburst, or more of a gradient where it starts out lighter in the middle and gets darker to the edge and gives it kind of an interesting look. So those are kind of your 4 choices there. Going forward, all of those, you're going to find those in the $100 to $150 range, depending on which one you're looking at. The newest Bambinos that just came out not too long ago, so they released a small second one, which actually that's my favorite one. So I really like small second subdials that have the seconds, rather than being a large second hand, it's on a subdial and it's small and spins around. But those ones right now are usually in around the $200 range. You can see some of them sometimes dropping a little bit below that. But they're very nice looking. It's a very classic, older style look. And that was originally one of the ones I was going to. Wound up being a little bit more than I was willing to pay, so that's why I wound up going with the Generation 2 Bambino instead of the small seconds. Also, I was looking at the open heart one for a little while too, because again, I was looking at open heart watches, and so when I saw that the Bambino had released an open heart, I'm very interested in that. But again, a big price gap between the Bambino open heart and the Esteem. So you're looking at, probably at least $100 difference between the two. Sometimes the Bambino open hearts were going for more. The other main difference besides the movement in the Bambino, and we touched on this before, between the Bambino and the Symphony and the Esteem, is that the Bambino has that domed crystal. It's kind of a very high domed crystal. It really gives a nice kind of distortion on it. What I didn't realize initially was that not only is the crystal domed, but the face of the watch is also domed. So it has kind of a very curved, sort of bubbly look to it, and you get kind of some interesting looks as you look at it in different lights and different angles. The curvature is so pronounced that actually on the minute hand and second hand of the Bambino, it's actually curved a little bit. So you can actually see that the second hand, if you look at it from the right angle, you can actually see that the second hand bends a little bit at the end to sort of follow the curvature of the watch face. So it has a very kind of curved look to it that's very different from any other watch in my collection, which again was one of the things that I really kind of liked about it. I'll be doing a full review of why I wound up choosing this one and kind of looking at this particular Bambino in the future. But the long and short version is, I really liked the simplicity of it. I think it's something that I can wear with a lot of sort of dressier outfits, whether I'm wearing a full-on suit or just shirt and tie. It can kind of fit with a lot of those. The blue dial I think goes well with a lot of different colored straps. I'd love to get it on a brown strap. Comes on a black strap right now, which again has a very formal look to it, but I think you can kind of pull that off. And again, the blue is sort of it's an interesting color. I really like the color of the dial. It has this really interesting look depending on the angle that you look at it from. And so you get a lot of, I think a lot of bang for your buck on this one. And this is the only blue dial watch that I have in my collection now. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I just got it in the mail not too long ago, so I definitely want to kind of put it through its paces a little bit before I do a full review on it. Anyways, I hope that kind of clears up. If anybody is looking into these Orient watches in this price range, maybe help you get a better idea of what the difference is and what to look for, particularly if you're looking out on eBay. You really got to look carefully at the model numbers, because I've seen some where they would put the wrong picture up there, and you'd look at the model number in the description, and it would be describing a totally different watch. But there's so many different variations out there, it can be very easy to mistake one for the other without looking closely. But yeah, I hope that helps you guys. Let me know down in the comments if what's your favorite Bambino, or what's your favorite Orient watch in this price range. Do you like the open heart ones? Do you gravitate towards something a little bit simpler? There's a lot of options there, so I'd love to hear what's your favorite sort of Orient dress watch is in this kind of price range. If you go a little bit higher, you could throw in the Sun and Moon, and that's actually pretty comparable to some of the new Bambinos. And I thought about that one as well, but that one again, I was the new small second and open heart Bambinos were sort of at the upper edge of my price range anyway, so going up another $20-30 or so, to jump into the Sun and Moon, try and find one of those. That was just a little bit more than I was willing to spend for that, but that's another one to look into that's kind of in the same price range. It's another really cool watch as well. You get the moon phase with that one. Anyways, though, yeah, drop me a comment. Let me know which ones you guys like. And again, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for a full review of this Bambino and then also this Momentum watch that I picked up as well, and that will be coming up in the future. But thanks again for watching.